Very pertinent points, and you've talked about losses that US is in fact bearing, but apart from losing lives, apart from losing assets in the Middle East, apart from looking at their bases being destroyed, there's also the economic loss that US is facing, Israel is facing, and then the world over countries are also facing. In fact, there's some information regarding that. Let me introduce that to our viewers, that US President Donald Trump has said that the recent surge in global oil prices amid the Iran crisis is a small price to pay for ensuring global security. In a post on the social media, Trump has argued that the spike in oil prices is temporary and justified if it helps eliminate the threat posed by Iran's nuclear program. Trump claims that the short-term oil prices, which will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over, is a very small price to pay for USA. The US president has further added that those who think differently are fools. His comments come as crude oil prices have surged following escalating tensions and military action involving Iran, raising concerns about disruptions to global supply chains of energy. In fact, global oil prices have surged sharply as the war involving the United States, Israel and Iran intensified, raising fears of major disruptions to global energy supplies. Prices jumped around 20% in early trading on Monday, crossing $100 a barrel for the first time since 2022, as markets reacted to the expanding conflict and risk to oil shipments through the Straits of Hormuz. Now, the surge in oil prices comes amid major political developments in Tehran as well, where Iran's clerical body has appointed Mojtaba Khamenei as the country's new supreme leader after the death of his father, Ali Khamenei, during the early phase of the US-Israel strikes. The war, now entering its second week, has intensified across the region, with continued airstrikes and military escalation, fueling fears of prolonged instability in global energy markets. Let me in fact rope in Ambassador Kapoor, who's also with us now on the broadcast. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to NewsX and for taking out your time. Ambassador, this is a very worrying situation. We are into week 2, day number 10. This conflict, this war in West Asia and the Gulf seems to be ongoing. It does not seem to stop. And now we are obviously seeing the oil prices rise. This is something that does not just affect US or Israel or Iran, it affects the world. It affects us as well, the common people who are just witnessing this ongoing conflict right now. US President Donald Trump has said, Ambassador, that this is a very small price to pay, and as soon as Iran surrenders, that unconditional surrender that he's seeking, the prices will stabilize. We have experts, Ambassador, who are stating that there are oil fields being targeted, the oil storage locations are being targeted. It will take months, if not years, to replenish the supply, to make sure the production is up to the mark again. How are we looking at the global scenario going forward, Ambassador?
Well, it is going to be a very difficult situation for all the countries involved in the war directly, such as US, Israel, Iran, and also the other countries, including the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which have those American bases. They will have a much greater impact of this war. But globally also, there is going to be an impact on the economies of many countries, including India, because if you are energy dependent and if that inflow of that energy is going to be disrupted, and if the cost of the supply chains for moving that energy from point A to point B is going to skyrocket because of the tremendous threats, because of the rising insurance costs, because of depletion of supplies from the original points of picking up that oil. So too many factors are impacting the entire scenario today. So it's going to have a very great economic impact also, besides the security impact which it is already having. So the world has to sort of brace up and be ready because inflation will go up in many countries very significantly, and they will have to see how to deal with this aspect. Security wise, if I look at it, both the sides are suffering heavy losses. Like the previous panelist also mentioned, Israel and America are suffering heavy losses, but so is Iran. And as I've said earlier, Iran, we should look at it a little more pragmatically, a little more realistically. What was Iran earlier is a totally different ball game altogether, totally different entity altogether. It was a positive entity which was contributing to knowledge, to science, to thought, to so many areas of the world, to civilizations and civilizational aspects. But for the last so many decades, it's not at all in that role or in that capacity. It is a country which, for example, has always voted against India in the Security Council. It has raised the Kashmir issue in statements by Ayatollah Khamenei also, many times, repeatedly. If you analyze the entire track record for India's concerns as a diplomat from India who has worked for over 3.5 decades for Indian diplomacy, I do not see Iran as a positive aspect for India in terms of strategic, cooperation or security aspects or economic aspects for the future under the current leadership. It's a very negative leadership which supports terrorism. Their people were also in Kashmir from IRGC along with the Hamas, trying to rouse our people from Indian Kashmir to take up arms and to take up more active sort of fight against the Indian system. Now, if you have an entity like that which is spreading and fomenting terrorism all over the world, I think it is time for the people to reflect upon this, and for our people also in India, particularly our uniformed officers, also to reflect upon this aspect to see what is Iran today, and is it worth it for India, for Iran to continue in the shape that it is today, and is it all right for Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon when it makes open statements against India, not hidden statements, when it has said that in writing many times that its policy is to wipe out Israel from the face of the earth, etc., etc. The list is endless. 79, they attacked the US embassy, violated all protocols. So their respect for the international system is very, very low. Who are the supporters of Iran? The primary supporters are China and Russia currently. Is China a friend of India? No, it is not. Now, if they are getting the intelligence from these countries to bomb the American radars or the Israeli, various bases or the airports, China is actively supporting them. And if they are so dependent on China, is it good for India? No, it is not. So when I start looking at it, I draw out a matrix and look at it from the strategic aspects. Okay, Chobahar, we have some emotional thinking that, oh, this would have been useful. But for me, that is far more useful to have Chobahar, the government, which is not radical government, which is not political Islamic government, which is not jihadi Islamic government. So if there is a regime change, if they revert to becoming a positive contributing member to the Committee of Nations, then I think it is in Indian interest to support them strongly. Currently, I do not understand on what basis our strategic experts are formulating their thoughts or their concepts of going all out to say, oh, Iran has been wrong, Iran is what we should be supporting, India is not stepping up, etc., etc. So that is a little confusing for me. I'm still trying to process and understand that. Iran has definitely lots of strengths of its own, plus the borrowed strengths of China and Russia. Now, whether this thing will ultimately result in that regime change where a different set of people come into power who are more positive towards the global sort of contributions, towards global thought, towards global leadership, is yet to be seen. Because currently, their leadership is to assume control of the Islamic jihadi world and to direct that against the other world. So how do we then not be able to reconcile the ground realities of Iran today to what is the future strategic, security, and economic interest of India and of the other countries? Back to you, Shivani.